Hey, what is going on, guys? So today we're going to talk about the famously known Dr. Mike and some of his recent content that I have issues with, more specifically content in which he was sponsored by ButcherBox, a past video he made which he actually ended up deleting that was also sponsored by the meat industry in the form of the dead baby pig industry, and his justifications for supporting humanely raised, pasture raised, grass-fed, free range, animal products where the animals that end up being murdered are actually taken care of very nicely before getting murdered. So let's just start with the video in which he was sponsored by ButcherBox, which was titled Dr. Fact Checks TikTok Nutrition Advice.
Back to the TikToks in just a second, but first I want to talk to you about ButcherBox. As some of you know, I've completely transformed my diet in the last year as I prepare for my debut as a pro boxer. I'm working out twice a day and I have a very strict nutritional schedule to make sure I'm in fighting shape. This could have easily become a process of eating bland foods, but thanks to ButcherBox, my meals have been better than ever. ButcherBox delivers 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught seafood, and so much more directly to my door. In particular, I've been enjoying their wild Alaskan sockeye salmon, which is fresh and flavorful, while also being packed full of nutrients. ButcherBox only sources from farmers and fishermen who meet the highest standards of quality, and you can choose your box and delivery frequency so you get the exact foods you and your family love. If you click the link in the description right now, ButcherBox is going to give you free ground beef for life. That's right, new members will receive 2 pounds of grass-fed ground beef for the lifetime of their membership. All right, let's get back to the TikToks.
Now, there is definitely no irony here whatsoever. There is definitely no irony in Dr. Mike creating a video which aims to debunk bad nutrition advice on TikTok while promoting ButcherBox, a company which actively sells red meat, otherwise known as the dismembered body parts of cows and pigs, which we know is strongly associated with disease in humans, even when things like calorie intake, vegetable intake, fruit intake, smoking, and exercise are controlled for. And in this study on red meat consumption and mortality, it was found that red meat consumption is associated with an increased risk of total cardiovascular disease and cancer mortality. And here's one more study on red meat specifically, going over red meat consumption and risk of stroke, a dose-response meta-analysis of prospective cohort studies. This paper included over 2 million subjects and 21,730 stroke cases. The findings of the study indicate that high consumption of red meat, especially processed red meat, will increase risk of stroke. And lastly, because I really want to hammer in this point of how ironic it is that Dr. Mike is making a video criticizing nutritional misinformation while promoting ButcherBox. The high saturated fat nature of many of ButcherBox's products is problematic. We know that saturated fat can increase LDL, and increased LDL has been shown to possess a causal relationship with atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And remember, heart disease is our #1 killer. So Dr. Mike, while in the process of trying to come across as a nutritional authority figure, is being sponsored by and is promoting a product which sells the dismembered body parts of animals, which we know highly increases our risk of disease. Amazing. So shortly I will be going into the ethics of what Dr. Mike is promoting, but before that I want to go into a slightly trivial point here. Dr. Mike mentioned that in preparation for his upcoming debut as a pro boxer, he has completely transformed his diet. He goes on to say that this could have easily been a process that included bland foods, but then indicates that it hasn't been because of the help of ButcherBox. So he is implying here that ButcherBox is sending him non-bland, dead, dismembered body parts. This confused me a little bit considering how bland dismembered body parts really taste prior to seasoning and cooking them with plants. He is literally being sent bland foods by ButcherBox and then saying, thanks to ButcherBox, I won't be eating bland foods. Of course, it isn't ButcherBox inherently that is going to make his food for his boxing preparation not bland, but instead the cooking process and plants used to season his bland dismembered body parts sent to him from ButcherBox. So if anything, he should be thanking plants and the cooking process for making his food and his whole boxing preparation not bland, not solely ButcherBox. So let's dig into the ethics of what Mike is promoting. Dr. Mike's tonality in his promotion of ButcherBox is one that radiates heavy amounts of positivity and just overall excitement. He just seems like an overall very well-intentioned guy promoting a very well-intentioned product. But what exactly is Mike promoting here? He is literally promoting the mass exploitation and killing of animals for profit. It is truly mind-blowing to me that we still live in a world where somebody can just, with a huge smile on their face, look at the camera and promote products directly derived from literal murder. Could you imagine if Mike was just at like a Q&A or something and somehow ButcherBox was brought up and I raised my hand and I was like, hey, Mike, I'm just wondering, like, what about the rights of the animals that have to be stripped away for these ButcherBox products to come in the mail or to come into fruition? What about those animals' rights? I mean, like, they're literally being murdered, Mike. What do you have to say about that? Now, I'm assuming he would say something like this.
You can't talk about meats without discussing factory-raised pork versus pasture-raised pork. And I'm a firm proponent of eating meats that are pasture-raised. Why? It's better for the animal, it's more ethical. They're living a species-specific lifestyle. They're roaming how they want. They're eating the correct diet that they should.
So first off, let's just be honest here. As with most proponents of, quote, humanely raised, free-range types of animal products, I doubt Dr. Mike solely consumes animal products from these types of farms. If you watch the way he talks about pizza and food in New York City in his What I Eat in a Day video, it's clear he is not walking around New York City making sure that everything he eats is certified humane and free range.
If I'm having a cheat meal lunch on the weekend with, let's say, my buddies, I like to get a food that is social. For example, pizza. I love pizza. Getting an extra large pie with extra cheese, pepperoni, some veggies thrown in there. It's definitely not healthy, but that's why it's a cheat meal. I have to be biased here. New York City is the best food city. You have, I mean, obviously I'm from here, so I'm biased. You have every type of ethnicity, every type of cooking. You have amazing seafood, the best sushi from Japan. There's nothing your heart can desire, or maybe in this case your stomach can desire, that you cannot get here in New York City. Whether you're talking about halal food, sushi, bodega chips, like just everything. Like you can run the gamut in New York City. I love the food here. Like I love the people and I love the food. That's what makes New York City special.
So what would Mike say when pressed on the rights of animals who want to live, who are prematurely murdered for human profit or the profit of ButcherBox? This specific question still applies to free-range animals. And just to touch on the topic of free range for a second, the term free range doesn't mean much anyway. In the US, there currently is no legal agreed upon definition for the terms free range or pasture raised. I will link an article down below if you want to read more about this. So guys, let's be clear. Behind all of the smiles and happy vibes that Dr. Mike portrays when promoting a company like ButcherBox, there is a horror show we call a slaughterhouse in which animals are prematurely murdered next to their friends. And of course, because they're all premature, they are murdered with many more years to live. So how can somebody with such a positive kind of energy promote a product which literally is based on stealing lives and years away from animals? Maybe he hasn't thought about this. It's not totally clear. Many people do buy into this whole free range propaganda, but I'm not really sure. And to close out this video, here's some clips of a video Dr. Mike ended up deleting where he was sponsored by the National Pork Board in promoting his friend's murdered animal processing facility. He does that thing again where he makes something so based in horror look positive, so I'll be adding the appropriate music for a much more accurate representation of what he is promoting.
One of my closest friends owns a meat facility. So I ventured out to Lenny's facility to see what happens to that meat. Dr. Sausage reporting for duty. Let's go to the smokehouse. But actually the temperature inside here is over 100 degrees. So if you're working here, you're sweating. So what happens in the smokehouse?
Basically here we cook our products, whether we dry cook, we smoke, or we steam.
If a product is smoked, that makes it a processed meat at that time, right?
That's correct. Once we introduce salt or cooking, it becomes a processed meat.
This is shooting a sanitizer so that when you walk through each area, you don't cross-contaminate. It's actually a really smart way to prevent infection.
You can't talk about meats without discussing factory-raised pork versus pasture-raised pork. And I'm a firm proponent of eating meats that are pasture-raised. Why? It's better for the animals, more ethical. They're living a species-specific lifestyle. They're roaming how they want. They're eating the correct diet that they should.
Alrighty guys, that is the end of the video. Please like, comment, and share this video around, especially to your friends who love Dr. Mike so much, just so they can understand some of the things he's promoting and some of the negativity, or a lot of the negativity, that the things he's promoting are derived from. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you'd like to support my work and support me on Patreon and get early access to my videos, you can click the link below and sign up as a patron, or even become a YouTube member and get access to all of those amazing emojis you've seen in the comments below. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Dude, even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude, even vegans don't get your weird, stupid